Good morning, everybody. We are, and have been, kind of on this SHTF kick the last couple of weeks, which is okay. I think it's a good thing. Now, somebody made the comment on a recent video, the SHTF strategic alliances. You know, that's a good idea, but it seems like you'd have to have an established community in order to be able to form strategic alliances post SHTF. Ding, 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 ding. That's kind of the point, guys and girls, ladies and germs, is that you do all that work now. You just are, you know, the tactical alpaca response team. That's from way back in the day on this channel. That's for you, Keith. Tactical alpaca response team. Tart. We need some shirts printed up that say Tart across the back of them. What I mean by that is, maybe you have a homestead where you have some alpacas, and you keep the alpacas for their lovely fine hair that you spin into yarn and then you knit with your ladies club. But your ladies club is also practiced in hand-to-hand combat and small arms training, and you knew how to take those knitting needles and stick them to the side of somebody's neck down through their subclavian artery and spin it around a little bit and break their collarbone with it if you need to. Right? Think about grandma gone all Born Identity on you. Because right now, you have covert groups, more or less. We're not running around advertising, hey, we're a group of badass preppers. Right? No. We're a homesteading community. We're a Boy Scout troop. We are an intentional community. We are whatever, right? We are whatever. Pick your group. Okay, now, shut up, chicken. Look, the velociraptors are out. And so right now, you're a group. Good. After an event happens, you already have the framework of the group. You already have the relationships built. So then you flex into an overt role, an overt group, not a covert group. So yeah, sounds like you need established groups. Mm-hmm. You do. You do. And the intention of that group would remain the same. But the level of publicity and the level of marketing that you do for that group is a different story. Stand by. Sorry. My wifey woman was like, where did you go? See, she's over there on the porch. She doesn't want to be in the video right now. She just woke up. Y'all can go check out her videos though. Homie Biscuits on this channel. Let's see. She's got a clothesline update. She's got making dish soap from scratch and muscadine picking here recently, if you're into that. So, channel plug for her. So, coming back to SHTF. Communities. Yeah, you should have a community. What you call that community and what the overt intentions of that community are now are entirely up to you. Smoke screens, man. After the balloon goes up, flex into your overt preparedness community roles. Okay? It's not that terribly difficult. So, there is a deer back in there. No, y'all can't see it, but way back in there, see this? Right back in there. There's a deer. That spot is what I call the Holy of Holies. And there's mama doe and a little fawn. Well, not that little anymore, but a fawn that live or that bed down right back there in that Holy of Holies. And bad news for you, mama doe. First day that you're legal, freezer camp. All right, so moving on. I had a question Paul Cox asked here on the YouTube channel. And Brother Paul, I don't know if you're on Patreon or not. We generally answer questions to this effect on Patreon. That's what we do over there. The barrier to entry is $1. And people ask questions and we answer them. Me and Squid and Harmony all do mini consultations. Anywhere from 5 minutes to 25 minutes on specific questions that you ask. And $1 gets you access to that. And all the ones that we've already done that are already there and all the ones to come. As well as inspirational stuff, motivational stuff. We just posted yesterday. Me and Squid were cracking up at this video about the infamous exploding whale. Yeah, we posted that. That was exquisitely funny. So, arm switch, coffee retention device. There we go. All right. But Paul Cox asked some pretty meaty questions, and Brother Paul, I responded to you in the comments, but I wanted to spin off of that here. Number one, non-believers in SHTF. What should I do? Well, I'm going to ask, or I'm going to assume that because you phrased the question non-believers, that you are a believer. And so I'm not going to tell you what you should do. I'm going to tell you what I am going to do and am doing. And maybe that will inform you as to how you need to proceed. Maybe it won't. But switch your ears on. I have lots of friends, and plenty of acquaintances that are either atheist or agnostic. I clearly am not anymore. Most of y'all will be familiar with the fact that I was in a state of apostasy for 10 years. I was in open warfare with God for 10 years. Losing proposition. And so I've talked about that in other videos. You can go back and look at the spiritual warfare video on this channel. So I do my best now, and it's really not that hard. I do my best now to keep the commandments of the Most High, as outlined in the first 5 books of the Bible, which is called the Tanakh, which contains the Torah, which is the Mosaic law, the law that God gave Moses, right, to remind his people who were coming out of 400 years of captivity in Egypt. Come on, words. It is first thing in the morning, and this is my first cup of coffee. So, the Hebrews were coming out of 400 years of captivity in Mitzrayim, Egypt, and they needed a reminder as to who they were. So the Father gave Moses, that reminder, said, do these things, don't do these things. This is pleasing to the Lord, this is not. Roger that. So, that's what I do. I also have a testimony, Revelations 12:14, 12:17, the remnant of the church, you know, the woman in the wilderness, the remnant of the church, she's being sought after by the beast, Satan, and you will know them. You will know this remnant because they have a testimony of Jesus the Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, Yeshua the Messiah. His name's Jesus. There's no J in Hebrew. So you call him whatever you want. And I don't get wrapped around the axles on that. You can call him whatever you want. But his name was Yeshua and is Yeshua. So have a testimony of the Messiah, which I do, and keep the commandments, which I do. So, for me, here on this property daily, we keep the commandments. Now, we have visitors that don't in their daily life, but here, that's how we roll. I'm not going to start eating unclean food and abandoning the feasts of the Lord because we have a visitor that doesn't do that. So, in the same vein, post SHTF, there's no doubt in my mind how this piece of land, this community, will be run. Now, I have lots of friends that are Christians too, and they're part of our group. And I don't begrudge them their beliefs, and they don't begrudge me mine. If I'm at their house, their castle, their rules, right? My castle, my rules. I'm still going to obey the Torah. I'm still going to keep the commandments. But however they see fit to run things, they see fit to run things. Here, we will be a group of believers with one fashion or flavor or another. And ultimately, honestly, the goal is to have a community of Torah observant people for end times, really. So, but how do you get there, right? Because I was a Bible believing Christian. Problem was, I didn't truly know all of the Bible. Once you do, I don't know. I don't want to say once you do. I think the Holy Spirit gets in there and flips a switch. And once that switch is flipped, you start digging and you start learning and understanding, and you need more and more and more. And it becomes more and more obvious that the Torah is the way. So I'm going on tangents here. But I think the danger of having non-believers in your camp in end times is, I highly value philosophical discussion, as you can see. But there are certain things to me that are inarguable that I'm not going to do battle with. I'm not going to have the time or the energy or the interest to do battle with somebody, especially whom I have to live next to and work with in end times. Something else to think is, if you are a believer and you believe that we will be or are right now in end times, it's pretty clear what happens between believers and unbelievers. Okay, unbelievers, non-believers, there's going to be a mark of the beast, right? These people are going to be in your camp. They're going to know where you live. They're going to know what you do, how you do it. So I guess it's really a question of, and whereas you, and again, remember the remnant, and we're not going to get into an argument about tribulation and whatever, right? The remnant are those that have a testimony of Yeshua, who believe in the Messiah, and keep the commandments of Yahweh. So if you're not doing that, according to the book, and it's right there in black and white in Revelation 12:14, I believe. If you're not doing that, you're not going to be part of the remnant, which means you're either going to die as a believer, or, and I mean, it's entirely possible as a believer who keeps the way, who keeps the commandments, you die as well. It doesn't say that you're impervious if you believe those things. But if you're a believer who's not keeping commandments, you're not going to be part of the remnant, is my take on it. But those unbelievers are certainly not going to be part of the remnant. In fact, they will be taking the mark of the beast. So that presents a huge OPSEC issue. Now, if you believe that SHTF can occur and not have it be biblical end times, then that's a whole nother story, dude. Which I think is entirely possible. I think it's very American to think that when our world falls apart, the whole world falls apart. Now, there's historical support for that. But an economic collapse in the United States does not necessarily usher in end times for the entire world. So that's something to think about. We tend to, as Americans, have this opinion. We're very self-centered. For good reason, right? I mean, we're the economic engine of the entire world, really. And yeah, that's changing, and it will continue to change, and empires fail. I am of the opinion that we are at the end stage of a decadent empire that's failing. But the phoenix that rises from the ashes of America, America 2.0 or 3.0 or whatever you want to call it, I would say 3.0. I think we hit 2.0 right around the Civil War era. But America 3.0 could be even more of an economic powerhouse than America 2.0 is right now, right? So who knows? But that doesn't... calamity and collapse here does not necessarily usher in the end of the world as we know it. So that's something to think about as well. So unbelievers in the camp. Again, this is the beauty of the Torah, as it gives us rules and guidelines to live by. The Torah tells us that those who are amongst the tribes of Israel will keep the way. You will do the things. If you're going to be part of my camp, you're going to do the things that I say we are going to do, which is keep the commandments of Yah. I don't necessarily believe that it's a great idea to have unbelievers in the camp unless they are your immediate family and unless they understand this is the way things are going to be, and I don't want to hear a word about it. I'm happy to tell you why we're doing this, but we're not going to debate whether or not we should be doing this. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. The next question you asked was, what about lazy people in the family? Lazy people like me who just dropped their own cell phone. Okay, what about lazy people? Lazy people post SHTF are going to be a problem. I have a video called The 4 Quarters Philosophy. You should go watch that. It's 2 minutes long. Just put in the search bar Squid and Bear 4 Quarters. Quarters, quarters. The 4 Quarters Philosophy. I will not rehash it here. It's a 2 minute long video. Go watch it. I don't have a lot of love for lazy people, even lazy people that I share genetic material with. If you're going to have lazy people, people that you know are lazy, as part of your clan, part of your tribe, you need to understand you're pulling dead weight. There are very few things that annoy me more than pulling dead weight. If you're gonna sit in the boat with the rest of us, at least row the damn boat. Pick up an oar and paddle. Maybe you don't paddle as hard as everybody else. Maybe you don't quite have the stroke and the rhythm as everybody else, but you're contributing. The only thing that's worse than somebody who's just sitting in the boat not paddling is somebody who's sitting in the boat paddling the opposite direction as everybody else and trying to get other people to paddle that direction with them. Division in the camp. So, If you're pulling dead weight, it needs to be for a really good reason. Guilt is not a really good reason to pull dead weight. Shame is not a really good reason to pull dead weight. Love is understandable. And I would say that's a case-by-case basis. But you had better love that person whose dead weight you're pulling. Because if you don't, the resentment and anger that is going to engender will eat you up. It's not worth it. I'm huge on personal responsibility. You make a mistake, own it. You do something good, own it. You don't like where you're at, move. Something's too hard. It's not the thing that's too hard. You're not hard enough, right? I'm big on personal responsibility. So it's tough for me to deal with lazy people. And truthfully, I have a bias against lazy people. It's hard for me to be compassionate towards lazy people. Because I have been in a position my entire life that being lazy meant not eating. And you may have noticed, I don't miss very many meals. But that's because I have this wonderful German industriousness bred into me. I get stuff done. So, I would really recommend against having lazy people as part of the group. Go watch the 4 Quarters philosophy. You're gonna piss off the productive people by having lazy people around, and then you're going to lose the productive people and be left with the lazy people, and you'll have dead weight with nobody to pull the dead weight. So I'd be really careful about that. Trying to remember what your last question was. I'm gonna go check. Stand by. And we're back. So the last question that we're going to address, Mr. Paul Cox, is A-type personalities, a large group of in the tribe. How does that work? So we're gonna get there, but one more shameless plug for burping. No, for Patreon. Also, my patrons, I'll be doing a post for y'all here shortly. I'm going to adjust the benefits of the tiers because right now everybody gets the same thing all the time. And so I'm going to keep all the content available to everybody, whether you're paying $1 a month or $50 a month for the benefit of seeing this ugly mug. But I'm going to add for the $20, $50, and $100 tiers regular consultation calls where we can talk on the phone. We'll schedule those out. There'll be X number of 15-minute phone calls per month to basically coaching and leadership calls to help you with your preparedness, your business, whatever else. So $1 gets you all the content, and more than $1 gets you actual business advice for a guy who's actually run billions of dollars in cash flow. So, good morning, my love. So, A-type personalities in the tribe, multiple A-type personalities. The first thing to understand is the best A-type personalities work well as individuals and work well in a group. And that's a very small group of people. That is one of the major facets of special forces, is that you need to be able to work well as an individual on your own without much direction at all to accomplish the mission. And you need to be able to work well as a team of individuals to accomplish the mission. So there's very few people that can do both of those things well and be driven individuals, which is why there's such a small percentage of the population that is or was special forces. So don't be surprised if your people are lacking in one area or another, because the vast majority of people on the planet are lacking in one of those two areas. That's just human nature. We tend to be an either or species, not a both species. You want to come sit? No. I'll be there in a couple. Your hair's atrocious. I like it. I think it looks good. So, if you're going to have a group of A-type individuals, the first thing is to establish fiefdoms, in my opinion. So all you're getting is my opinion. You ask for my opinion, this is what you get. So these fiefdoms would be basically, Joe, you're in charge of gardening. Bill, you're in charge of water. Phil, you're in charge of tree trimming. Bob, you are in charge of firewood. You know, James, you're in charge of security, yada, 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 right? So that they each have their own little fiefdom to run, and then subordinates underneath them. Or at least purviews, areas of responsibility, right? Separate that up. And you may have, you know, certain areas of responsibility that are mission critical, like, you know, food production. I mean, let's be honest, post-SHTF, it's all mission critical, right? There's very little frivolity post-SHTF. Although, if you do a good job of preparing, there can be. I don't want to live in a world without laughter and music. I'm just being dead serious. That is not worth preserving. I want to live in a world with laughter and music, which is why it's important to have proper preparations now, so that you can still have laughter and music then. You're not dying of heart attacks from the stress that comes from not being adequately prepared or whatever. But the mission critical stuff, which it's all pretty much mission critical, but you may need to put more than one person on it. But then everybody's going to need to come together as a community on Harvest Day or whatever, so that you can, you know, accomplish the goal at hand, in which case everybody needs to be able to play well together. So A-type personalities are really good because they're goal-oriented. They're driven individuals. If you identify targets for them and then let them figure out how they're going to hit those targets, you'll probably never have a problem. But dealing with multiple A-types in a confined environment under high levels of stress, make sure everybody has their own set of responsibilities, and figure out what are y'all going to do to let off steam. And the answer to that is not going to be drink moonshine and have a brawl out behind the barn. That's not a good idea. You need to have something, intramural sports and activities or whatever, badminton. What do you think, babe? Banana hammock volleyball, something. You need to figure out something for people to blow off steam. And that's one area of preparedness that a lot of people don't think about. We think about the hard stuff. We don't really think about the soft stuff of preparedness, like laughter and music and recreation and enrichment. And I mean, one of our things is we have children. These kids are going to need to keep learning, like just teaching people and leading people. You know, that gets into your prepper library. Have a prepper library. Have books, just because if Google goes away, your bookshelf is now your Google. But with multiple A-type personalities, the other thing is make sure that there is an established and respected chain of command, because people will be posturing to find out where they fit into the hierarchy of power. If you establish that now, there's no question about it. But also understand that some people are going to perform better than others, and there needs to be a rewards system for that. We're promoting Jeff to head of gardening. Sorry, Bob. Or whatever. Right. Well, that's going to make Bob mad, and I don't want Bob mad at me. He was a recon Marine. Sorry, Bob. Was a recon Marine. You're not the best gardener. Maybe you need to be on security forces. Like, you know what I mean? And I guess lastly, one of the pitfalls of type A personalities, speaking as one, is that we tend to take ourselves way too seriously. Would you agree with that statement, honey? Yeah. We tend to take ourselves way too seriously. Sometimes the best thing to do is just chill. Just chill out. Just breathe. Because my relaxed is like, and I've said this in other videos before, my relaxed is like threat level yellow. My switched on is like threat level red. And I don't think I've been threat level green since probably 6th grade. So sometimes we need to just chill. And again, that ties back into having a way for people to chill. And this will be the bow that we tie on this conversation. One of the best phrases I've ever heard comes out of southeastern Oklahoma from Robin Watson, who's an awesome lady. And she would tell her daughter, "You need to get some yonder." The first time I heard that, I was like, "What did you tell her?" She said, "She needs to get some yonder." So what does that mean? And she says, she needs to go over yonder way and stay there until she's ready to come back. So sometimes you need to just go get some yonder. You need a little bit of isolation and some downtime and some quiet, and just be away from people and just let your thoughts do their own talking, and let the Father talk to you, and just chill. So make a way for all your people, but especially your A-types, to get some yonder if they need to. These are good questions because it means that you're thinking about community. And I think, in my mind, with the militant farmer concept, which I'm trying to flesh out more and more, I need to get ready to be able to talk about this. The militant farmer concept. You're going to need the ultimate expression of that, right? Is a homesteading community. Agrarian society protected by a strong warrior class that's supported by the farmers and the specialized labor. So that takes people. That takes people. Minimum of 20 people, probably best bet 50-ish people. But I'll tell you this, 50-ish people, a year's worth of food, that's a semi-load of food. A semi-load. Rationed. 2 semi-loads if we're eating high on the hog. So, you need to have that food. You need to have a way to produce that food. And you need to have a way to protect that food. And the last thing I'm going to say is seriously think about, as a community, where y'all are going to gather to worship. Because no matter what happens, we should not quit giving thanks and giving praise for all that we have and for the circumstances that we find ourselves in. It will be important for everybody. Getting back to believers in the camp and non-believers in the camp, it will be important for everybody, A, to have the law read each week, to reinforce that so that everybody knows what the rules are. That's why they post the mezuzah, the 10 Commandments, the laws, on the gates in Israel. And that's why they appoint judges. So then they say, well, why did you punish that guy to death for, whatever? And you can go, boom, there's the rules right there on the gate. You saw them when you walked in. They were explained to you when you walked in, right? So it's important to have that. But it's also really important to continue to give praise to the Most High for what we have, even when what we have is chaos and strife and struggle and heartache. So with that, thank you, Paul Cox, for the questions. They were good questions, and means you're thinking in a good direction, which is why I wanted to answer them for the benefit of the community as a whole here on YouTube. And I would encourage you guys, I really would. I would encourage you guys to go to Patreon and search for Squid and Bear. You'll find us. It's $1. And we do this stuff a minimum of 3 consultations a week. Sometimes it's 4 or 5, but I am committed to a minimum of 3 a week. And it's helping people, which is why we're doing it. So, shalom and blessings, y'all. I'll talk to you guys later.